Welcome back, everyone, to the Deep Dive. You know how we usually get caught up in the latest news and current trends?
Mm.
Well, today we're going to hit pause on all that and kind of step back in time.
Yeah.
We're taking a deep dive into a single life from the past. Imagine kind of opening up a time capsule, but it's focused on one person.
Mm.
And this person was born way back in the early 1800s.
That's right. We're talking about a blog post that you found as part of this, the 52 Ancestors in 52 Weeks challenge.
Yeah,
Where someone's tracing their family history.
exactly.
And the post centers around their third great-grandfather,
Okay.
a man named Jonathan White, who lived from around 1805 to 1850.
So in this deep dive, we really want to pull out those significant moments, the telling details, the insights that Jonathan White's story can give us. And it's a chance for you, the listener, to connect with a life that was lived in a completely different time.
Yeah,
And maybe you'll even see some surprising connections to your own life today.
absolutely.
All right, so let's get started. Where and when did Jonathan's story begin?
Well, according to the research, Jonathan White was born around 1805 in Gloucester, Rhode Island.
Okay.
His parents were Humphrey White, who lived from 1758 to 1814, and Sybil Kirby, who lived till 1848.
Got it.
And one of the first things that kind of jumps out is that Jonathan's father passed away when he was really young, about 9 years old.
Yeah, that's a huge shift to lose a parent at that age.
Right.
The blog post mentions that his mother, Sybil, was appointed his guardian in February 1814. So what would that have meant for a young boy back then? What kind of support or guidance did guardians typically provide?
That's a really good question. Being appointed guardian meant taking on the formal responsibility for his well-being
Okay.
and, likely his property if he had any.
Right.
And back then, it usually involved making sure that he had food and shelter,
Yeah.
and maybe even some sort of apprenticeship or education, depending on the family situation.
Hmm.
It was like a legal way to provide for a minor who had lost their parents. And although the blog post doesn't go into specifics about what that looked like for Jonathan, it does highlight a big change that happened early on in his life.
Right.
And another interesting thing is that around 1823, probably in Foster, Rhode Island, which is nearby,
Okay.
Jonathan married Miranda Wade. She was born in 1804, and her parents were Simon and Phoebe Wade.
So by his late teens or early 20s, he was already starting his own family.
Exactly.
It seems like their family grew pretty quickly.
Yeah.
The records show that they had 3 children.
Mm-hmm.
Henry Arnold, who was born in 1824, Albert Henry, born in 1827, and Harriet A., who was born around 1836. That's a pretty big age difference between the oldest and the youngest.
It is.
Yeah.
And something else that's kind of amazing is that even as a young man with a growing family, Jonathan was already active in getting land.
Really?
Yeah, the blog post mentions his first land purchase in Gloucester.
Yeah.
And it was in 1821 from Peleg and Elizabeth Wood.
Okay.
And his sister Nancy White was actually a witness to the deal.
Oh, wow.
So for someone in his mid-teens to early 20s to be buying land, well, it kind of suggests that he had some independence.
Yeah.
Or maybe a family structure where even younger members were involved in property ownership.
Right.
And I think this gives us a little insight into how important land ownership was back in the early 1800s. It was almost like owning a business as today.
Totally. And it sounds like he didn't stop at just that one purchase.
No, he didn't. That same year, 1821, he bought land from his brother Benjamin. And then a few years later, in 1824, he and Benjamin bought land together.
Oh, wow.
This time from their sister Rhoda and her husband Erastus Clark.
So they were really involved in each other's lives
Very much so.
and financial dealings.
Yeah, it wasn't just about individual ventures. It seems like family played a big part in land transactions.
Yeah. Does it tell us anything about how people viewed or transferred property back then?
It does. It indicates that land wasn't always just an individual's asset,
Right.
but it could be something that was held and transferred within families, maybe to help out younger generations or to kind of consolidate what they owned.
Hmm.
And the fact that his siblings were buying from and witnessing deals for each other really emphasizes how strong those family and community ties were at the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And we also get a glimpse of his growing household from the 1830 census.
Okay.
They were still in Gloucester at that point.
Got it.
And the post breaks down the different members of the household.
Okay.
There was one male under 5, one male 5 to 10, one male 20 to 31, female 20 to 30, and one female 30 to 40.
Wow.
So based on when his children were born, it's likely that the youngest boy was Albert,
Yeah,
the older boy was Henry. The male in his 20s was Jonathan himself,
makes sense.
and the 2 women were probably his wife Miranda
Mm-hmm.
and maybe his mother or another female relative who lived with them.
It's really like piecing together a historical puzzle.
It really is.
Yeah, and although census records only give us these little numbers,
Yeah.
they really make us think about what daily life must have been like back then.
Right.
Who lived together, how families took care of each other,
Right.
and the different stages of life that were all happening under one roof.
And then it looks like things started changing for Jonathan.
Yeah.
By March 1839, he sold some land
Okay.
that he had bought back in 1824 to James White.
Okay.
What's interesting about this transaction is that the document mentions his wife Miranda giving up her dower, right?
Right.
Or her interest in the property.
Okay.
And her father, Simon Wade, was a witness.
Why would they specifically mention her giving up her interest?
Well, mentioning that Miranda was giving up her interest was like a legal formality.
Okay.
It was to make sure the buyer had a clear title to the land.
I see.
Basically, it acknowledged her legal rights to a portion of the property because she was his wife.
Mm-hmm.
And having her father there as a witness really shows how involved the family was
Right.
and how serious these transactions were.
Yeah.
So after all these land deals in Rhode Island, it looks like things were changing for Jonathan,
Mm-hmm.
leading to a big change of scenery.
That's right. It wasn't long after that land sale that Jonathan and his family packed up and moved to Connecticut.
Wow.
Yeah, in October 1839, he purchased land in Killingly from Joseph Arnold.
Okay.
And this move to Connecticut is a huge turning point.
Yeah, why do you think they moved?
Well, we can only guess, but maybe there were better economic opportunities there.
Yes.
Or perhaps the land was cheaper.
Right.
Or it could have been family connections that drew them there.
Mm-hmm.
But it definitely highlights how much people were moving around, even back in the 1800s, looking for new opportunities.
Yeah, that makes sense. And the 1840 census confirms that they were in Killingly, Windham County, Connecticut.
Okay.
And the details about their household had changed again. Now, there was one male, 10 to 15, one male, 15 to 21 male, 30 to 41 female under 5, and one female, 30 to 40.
So this lines up with Henry and Albert being teenagers.
Yeah.
And Harriet being a young child.
Yeah.
Jonathan would have been in his mid-30s and Miranda about the same age.
It's fascinating to see how the family changes through these little census snapshots.
Yeah, and the blog post mentions that Jonathan continued to invest in his new home.
Okay.
He bought more land in Killingly in 1845 from Alvin Cutler, and then again in 1846 from Reuben Robinson.
So they were really putting down roots there.
It seems so. It looks like they intended to stay in Connecticut.
Yeah.
They were establishing themselves and expanding what they owned.
Yeah, the blog post also says that Jonathan was a farmer living on Chestnut Hill in East Killingly.
Which gives us a little peek into what his daily life might have been like.
What do you think life was like as a farmer in rural Connecticut in the 1840s?
Well, I imagine it involved a ton of hard physical work,
Right?
taking care of crops and animals,
Yeah.
and being very in tune with the changing seasons.
Yeah, communities would have been more self-sufficient back then, right?
Definitely. And family would have been really important for both work and the household.
Mm-hmm. But sadly, Jonathan didn't have a long life in Connecticut.
Yeah, he didn't.
The records show that he passed away on April 19, 1850 in Killingly at just 47 years old.
Wow.
And the cause of death is listed as lung fever.
So what exactly would that have meant back then?
That's a good question. Lung fever was a very general term used in the 19th century
Okay.
to describe all kinds of respiratory illnesses.
Like what?
Well, it probably included things like pneumonia, bronchitis, and even tuberculosis.
Oh, wow.
But without the medical tests they have today,
Right.
it was basically just a broad term for any infection that affected the lungs.
Mm-hmm.
It really makes you think about how vulnerable people were to illness back then.
Yeah, before antibiotics and all the advanced medical care we have now.
Exactly. The 1850 census, which was taken after Jonathan's death, lists his family members who were still living in Killingly.
Okay.
His son Albert, who was 23 and also a farmer,
Okay.
his daughter Harriet, who was 14,
Mm-hmm.
and his widow Miranda, who was 36.
Right.
And it's interesting, Albert's entry in the census mentions that he had real property valued at $1,200.
So it seems like he was already starting to make a life for himself.
Yeah.
This census really gives us a glimpse of how the family was coping after losing Jonathan.
Yeah, it must have been really tough for them.
Yeah.
And even though he died in Connecticut, the Post says that Jonathan was supposed to be buried back in Rhode Island,
Okay.
in the White Chase Yard in Gloucester.
Right.
And that's where both he and Miranda have gravestones.
So even after moving away, they still felt connected to their roots in Rhode Island.
Exactly. And the blog post also shares some details about his will, which is pretty interesting.
Oh, yeah. What does it say?
It was dated April 18th, 1850,
Okay.
just one day before he died, and was officially recorded in the Killingly probate court a week later.
So this will gives us a really personal look into what he cared about and
Yeah.
how he wanted to take care of his family after he was gone.
Right. So what were the main things that Jonathan outlined in his will?
Okay, well, first off, he made sure his wife, Miranda, was taken care of. He gave her what they called lifetime improvement of all his land in Connecticut.
What does that mean?
Basically, it meant that she had the right to use and benefit from the land for the rest of her life.
Okay.
She could live on it, farm it, and make money from it.
Got it.
He also left her all of their furniture so she had control over their home.
So he was clearly thinking about her security and comfort.
Exactly. He wanted her to be taken care of in her later years.
And what about his sons, Henry and Albert? What did he leave them?
He left them all of his land in Rhode Island
Uh-huh.
to be divided equally between them.
Okay.
And then thinking longer term, the will said that after Miranda passed away, Henry and Albert would inherit all the land in Connecticut as well.
Okay.
But there was a condition.
Oh, what's that?
They had to pay their sister Harriet $200 within 1 year of their mother's death.
So he wanted to make sure Harriet would get something too.
Exactly this way. Even though the land itself was going to her brothers, Harriet would still receive a part of the inheritance.
That's a really interesting way to set things up.
It is.
Giving the sons the land, but also making sure they had a financial obligation to their sister.
Yeah.
Was that a common way to provide for daughters back then?
It wasn't unusual.
Okay.
Land was often seen as the main way to pass wealth down to sons
Okay.
because they were expected to keep farming or manage the property.
Mm-hmm.
So giving daughters money, often as a dowry or for their support, was a pretty common practice.
That makes sense. And I know there was something specific about Harriet living with her mother.
You're right. The will stated that Miranda had to let Harriet live and board with her until she got married,
Okay.
and Harriet wouldn't have to pay anything.
Oh, wow.
Plus, if Harriet stayed at home, Miranda also had to provide her with clothes.
It's clear that Jonathan was worried about his youngest child.
Yeah, especially since she was so young when he died.
Absolutely. It's amazing how much detail he put into his will considering how close he was to death.
It really is.
The blog post also mentions the total value of his estate. What did it all add up to?
The inventory of Jonathan White's estate totaled $1,227.55,
Okay.
including $900 in real estate.
So that gives us an idea of how much he had accumulated over his lifetime.
Exactly. And the fact that the court accepted this inventory pretty quickly,
Okay.
less than a month after he died, suggests that handling his estate went relatively smoothly.
Yeah. So when we look back at Jonathan White's life through this genealogy research,
Yeah,
we see a lot of change and movement. He
absolutely.
grows up in Rhode Island,
Mm-hmm.
loses his father at a young age,
Right.
becomes a landowner pretty early on, starts a family,
Yeah.
is involved in land deals with his siblings,
Mm-hmm.
makes a big move to Connecticut in his mid-30s,
Right.
continues to farm and buy property there,
Yep.
and then dies at just 47.
Yeah, it's quite a story.
It is. And then his will gives us one final glimpse into what he valued most.
His family.
Exactly. He was clearly focused on their security.
Yeah, it's really touching.
So what are some of the things that stand out to you about Jonathan's story?
Well, that early drive to own land is really interesting. It makes
Yeah.
you wonder if he was ambitious or had a strong sense of responsibility.
Right.
And the fact that his family was so involved in all these land transactions shows how connected they were and how much they relied on each other.
And then there's that big move to Connecticut.
Yeah,
It must have been a big decision.
definitely.
Probably driven by the hope for a better future.
Right.
And then his will, with all its specific details, gives us a really personal look into his hopes and worries for his family.
It really does.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the life of Jonathan White, who was born over 200 years ago, it brings up a bigger question for you, our listener.
Okay.
What does this individual story, this snapshot of a life from the 1800s, tell us about the bigger picture back then?
That's a great question. This story touches on some really important themes.
Yeah.
For example, the move from Rhode Island to Connecticut reflects the trend of westward expansion and the constant search for new opportunities that was typical of 19th century America.
That makes sense.
And the importance of land ownership back then.
Yeah,
It was crucial for financial stability and social standing.
it really was.
And then you have Jonathan's will.
Right.
All the details in it show us something about family structures back then,
Okay.
how inheritance worked, and how worried people were about their families after they died.
Yeah.
It's a good reminder that history isn't just about presidents and battles.
Hmm.
It's also about the everyday lives, the choices, and the legacies of people like Jonathan White.
Right.
And when we put all these individual stories together, we get a much richer and deeper understanding of the past.
Absolutely. So what parts of Jonathan's story resonate most with you when you think about life in the 1800s?
Hmm.
Thanks for joining us.